So hi everyone, I was going to record this because people have been asking me to show them something about cooking Nigerian food. I am not the best Nigerian food cook person, but yeah, it's raining outside, very gloomy. I'll show you. It's really gloomy outside. You see, it's so gloomy outside. Yeah, and that's my mop. So I just finished working out and I'm just gonna start doing this because the man is coming home. Yay! I'm gonna make some fish. This is fish stew. Yeah, I don't know what type of fish this is. It looks like tilapia. Yeah, ew, that's the blood. Anyway, so what I do is I first rinse the fish. Just rinse the fish. So once I finish rinsing it, I'll go ahead and just put some spices and stuff in it. So I'm going to transfer all the fish into this pot and then take my seasoning. I just grabbed any seasoning. This is a Goya, the perfect seasoning. It has a whole bunch of stuff and I read it and it says that you can actually use it on fish right there. And just sprinkle it all over it. Make sure that I get all the parts. And then leave it to marinate for a couple of hours and come back and start cooking it. Make the base for the tomatoes and start cooking it. So that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna do 2 different stews and you'll see how I do it. So in the meantime, I'm gonna take my collard greens, which I've actually washed and cleaned. And I'm gonna grab a knife and start chopping. And this is for the Efo. It's just collard green stew. So I'm just gonna chop it like that. So these are the collard greens. Some people use the frozen collard greens and we used to use that until about a couple of weeks ago. And the reason why we used to use the frozen collard green was because I really don't know, but the thing was that I went to the store and I bought the fresh collard greens because I usually make collard green smoothie. And I bought the fresh one and I cooked it and the man loved it and he said no more buying frozen collard greens anymore. So now we have to do this. Frozen collard greens, for me, it was faster. I could just open the bag, squeeze out the water and cook it. But the thing that I find out is that when you cook it with the frozen collard green, it's not as fresh and it's very liquid. I don't know, it's kind of not as fresh. So something else that you can use if you don't have collard greens, you can use spinach. So spinach also works well. The problem with spinach is that I don't like the stew to be too watery, so I like a dry consistency to the stew. So what you do next is we just put some water and we're just going to boil it. So just put as much water as you can. I'm not gonna add any seasoning to it because we will still add seasoning later on. Okay, I'm going to talk about the ingredients. Now when it comes to Nigerian cooking, it's not like the Western cooking where they'll have 2 cups of this, 1 cup of this, and 1 tablespoon of that. And usually you just kind of eyeball it. Right now for this stew, I'm doing more of a seafood base or seafood seasoning thing. Usually some people will use meat, they can use chicken, they can use turkey, but this is what I choose to use. You can also add mushroom to this, so you can throw in whatever you need. For my seasoning, I'm going to be using salt. I have some salt here. I have some Maggi cube. They're also called bouillon cubes. And then I have my thyme and my curry. I have my cooking oil. This is also called palm oil. I like this type because it's not as solid as the traditional ones. I also have melon seeds. This you can get at the African store. And this is crayfish. It's just dried shrimps, really small dried shrimps. very small. Hello. And of course, locust beans. You've seen me use this before in previous vlogs. Cleaned locust beans. I always put this in all my stews that have vegetable in it. And this is salmon. We just started doing more of salmon instead of turkey and meat in our F4, in our vegetable soup, because we find that it tastes really good and the children will eat it. The children don't eat a lot of meat. Yeah, it's very hard for them to eat a lot of meat. I don't know why, but they don't eat a lot of meat, so they like fish more. For the stew part, I am going to use 2 peppers just because. I'm going to use 2 atarodo. These, what are they called? Habanero peppers or Scott bonnets. I think they call Scott bonnets somewhere else. Anyway, and then 2 onions, and I have tomatoes. I just put about 10 tomatoes in here. You can put more, you can put less, but this is what the ingredient comprises of. So what I'm doing is I'm just cooling it down. So I've already steamed. So this is the vegetable, is well done, and I'm just cooling it down with some cold water. So always use cold water when you cool it down. And after doing this, I'm going to squeeze out the water, squeeze out as much water as I can out of it. So something I forgot to mention is I also adding 1 whole garlic, or if you have minced garlic, you can put in 1 tablespoon of minced garlic. So I'm going to blend all this mixture, adding the garlic in there, and blend everything together. So that is all blended. Whenever I make fish stew, I always make the tomato base. I always make it much more pepperish than when I do beef or any other stew, because there's just something about peppers and fish that just goes well together. So now to start cooking, the first thing I do is I get the egusi, the melon seed. I'm going to put a little bit of water in it, and I'm going to create somewhat of a paste. So maybe about, just do it so that you have a consistent of a paste. And if you feel lumps, break it apart. So just put your finger in there and just make sure that you just break it apart. Because I'm making a big amount of the F4, I'm gonna put about, let's just say about a cup of cooking oil in there. Okay, and just heat that up just a little bit. You can see the steam coming out. The oil is ready. So what I just do is I just take the melon seed mixture and just carefully pour it in like this. You can use a spoon, but because I'm recording, I'm just dumping it in there. And just reduce the fire just a little bit so that it doesn't burn too quickly. Once it starts to cook, start separating it so that everything gets kind of fried. What I do next is I take the shrimp, the dried crayfish, I pour that in there and I cook that together with it again. So the egusi, the melon seed are soaked up most of the oil. You can see that all the oil has gone into that and kind of made it all lumpy looking. So what I now do is I now take about not the old tomato base, but I just take a little bit of amount, add it into this. So I added in my Maggi cube in there, cook this a little bit. Next I'm gonna add in my curry powder. Let me see, a teaspoon and a half, give or take. Then I add in my thyme, adding it about half a teaspoon, not so much. You don't really need to add in thyme all the time, but yeah, that rhymes. But I just like putting thyme in mine. Next, add in my locust beans. So I'm just dumping everything in there. Mix that in real well, and then let it cook for about, let's just say about 15 minutes. 15 minutes. So when I'm done, you can see that there's no liquid inside, and it's kind of fried with the stew. So what I do now is, the bowl that I put the egusi in, I put some water, and I just put a little bit of water into the bowl so you can kind of see some of the egusi in there. Just put a little bit of water just to make it a little bit moist. Then I add my collard greens, and then I put some salt, like about half a teaspoon of salt. It depends on if you like a lot of salt. And then I stir it really well. This you don't have to cook for so long. 5 minutes is okay. If you think you need a little bit of liquid, if it's too dry for you, you can add more in there. And I am going to now take all that salmon, put all that salmon in there and mix it really well. So after you give it a good stir, this is what it's going to look like, and just simmer it for about 5 minutes and you will be ready to eat. Let's finish your spelling. Okay. Don't forget to click the like button and do a thumbs up. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next video. Bye.